Now if you haven't watched the previous training video on many-to-many relationships, you want to watch that because this is the sequel to that training video. So you want to have an idea of what we're talking about here. Well, continuing on, what we want to do is you want to be able to clean up these two tables here, because these two tables want to create a relationship with the go-between table, the junction table, because between the two of them they create a many-to-many relationship because of the duplicate records, and we can't have duplicate records because Access won't allow us to have many-to-many relationships. So here's the solution. To clean these tables up, I'm going to create or copy the projects table, just the structure, just the fields, not the records because the records are duplicated. And then once I copy it, I'm going to go ahead and assign the project ID the primary key. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll append the records over, but because I have in that temporary table the project ID assigned with the primary key, it won't bring over the duplicate records. And then I'll also do that for the employees table as well. So let's get started and see if this makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and start with employees and right click on it and copy it, and then come up here and click paste. Now you've got three options. You can do the structure only, which is what we want to do, and that just means you just copy the fields over, not the records, or you copy both the fields and the records over, or the append data to existing table. Here you can type in the name of an existing table you'd like to paste or append the data you copied from the other table. So we won't worry about that. We just want to do structure, and we'll call this our temp EE for temporary employees table, and click OK. There it is. Now let's make a copy of the projects. Right click, go down to copy. We can right click and go down to paste. We want the structure only again, and this will be our temp projects table, and hit enter. Now again, if I double click on one of these temporary tables, it's just the structure. There are no records. Again, I don't want the records because they're duplicates. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to create an append query that will add the records but without the duplicates. So how do I avoid the duplicates? Well, what I want to do is I want to click and go to the design view of this table, select the employee ID because, again, we don't want duplicate employee IDs. We want to select that, click on the primary key, and make that a unique field. So when I copy or append the records from these corrupted tables, the ones that have duplicates, over into these temp tables, because I assigned a primary key, it won't allow duplicate records to come over, if that makes sense there. Okay, in fact, watch and I'll show you in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and be sure to save my work, close out of the temporary employees table. We also need to do it for the temporary projects table. Again, nothing here but the fields. Right click and go to the design view and click on the primary key for the project. Make sure you have the project ID field selected. Be sure to save your work. We'll close out of that. In fact, we'll go ahead and close out of all the rest of these tables. Now to create our append query, which is going to append the records from this table, the old table, the employees that has duplicate records, over into our temporary employee table. And because we had the primary key assigned to the employee ID, it's only going to copy over those records and not allow duplicates to come over. So come up here, click on the Create tab, go to the other group and click on Design Query. I'm going to go ahead and double click on Employees, close out of it. And from the field list here, we'll double click on the employee ID, the last name, and the first name because those are the fields, or at least the records of those fields, the data we want pulled over or appended to the temporary employee table. Now I want to make this an append query, so I'll come up here to the query type group and click on append. What table do I want to append these records from the employee table to? It's going to be the temporary employee table. Click OK. Click on the Fun Run button. You're about to append 25, say yes. There's some violations. We have some empty records. It didn't add 5 of them. And again, we also have the primary key, so it can't add those duplicate records. We have the employee Tony Banks listed twice, 100, 100, so it's only going to add them once. We'll say we're fine with that. Click yes. In fact, if we double click and open up the employees table, is Tony Banks listed in here twice? Is the employee ID listed here twice? No. Fantastic. Let's close out and let's finish up by closing out of that query, saying no. Come up here and let's create our second query, and it's going to be for our projects. Double click on that, close out. We want to add and double click on the project ID to add it down the grid below and the project name down below. We don't want the employee ID. Remember, this is just for the projects. We're cleaning this up because the projects table, the temporary projects table, should only contain the projects, and the employee table should only contain the employees because our third table will have the link between those two, which will include the project ID and the employee ID. In any case, let's go ahead and click on the Append Query button, click on the drop down arrow, and we want to append this to our temporary projects table and click OK. Click on the Fun Run button, It's going to bring over 21 records. Click yes, that's okay. Again, there's violations because we had duplicate projects in there. We're okay with that, with not bringing them over, and click, and it tells you right here it didn't bring over or add 12 records. Say yes, that's fine. Close out, don't save it. Okay, so these are the two temp tables for the employees and for the projects. Now the project, it's all clean. I've got this set as the primary key and I have no duplicates. The employee table, this is the primary key, no duplicate first name or last names. The junction or the go-between table does have duplicate employees, does have duplicate projects, so there's the go-between for the many from the projects that I want to keep track to the many employees, but on the whole as a record, it's not duplicated. So it doesn't violate that rule. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close out of all these. And what we want to do is we're going to delete these two dirty tables that have duplicates and just rename these back to these two names here that we're just about to delete. Select it, hit the delete key and say yes, delete it. Select projects, delete it, yes, delete it. Then I can go ahead and right click on the temporary employees table and say I want to rename it and call it TBL. Enter. Right click projects, rename, TBL, enter. Now for the finale here, I'm going to come up here, click on the Database Tools tab, click on the Relationships. I'm going to right click in a gray area and say Show the Tables. We've got the Employees and the Projects table. We just need to double click on the Assignments table and close out. Now what we can do is go ahead and click and drag Employee to Employee ID. Enforce referential integrity and check these boxes so we can make changes to it and click Create. And then Project to Project ID. Check these boxes, all of them, and create them. Fantastic. See what's going on? You'd think that this would be a one-to-one relationship, but because both primary keys make up a single unique record, not just the field by itself, the employee ID, not just the project ID, but between the two it's unique. That's why it has one to many and many to one. So if you didn't have that there, it would try to force a many to many, but it's not going to happen because now we have the junction, the go-between, which you could say is many to many. Because look, on the right side it's a many, left side it's many, but when it goes to another table, it adheres to the rules of the many to one. So again, we can have each employee work on many projects, and each project can involve many employees with this junction table, and making sure that we have two primary keys assigned. So we can have duplicate employees and duplicate projects, but between the two, when they're combined together, they're not duplicated. They just have one record that's unique. That can relate to the employee ID and also the project ID. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.